And we have returned. You're listening to Beth Ann. This is CSC Talk Radio. Talking about the war that we're in. And I want you to recognize it for what it is. It isn't politics as usual. And it hasn't been for a long time. I said that before the last election. It's no longer politics as usual. I'm just as upset with the Republican Party as I am the Democrat Party, although I think there are a few in the Republican Party that are trying to support the president and the Constitution. Maybe we should say that first. I don't care so much about supporting the president as I do about supporting the Constitution. However, I have only heard one Democrat, and by golly, I don't remember his name, and I need to remember his name, that he's not on board with some of this socialism stuff. Now, he's more socialistic than the Constitution, which, that just blows my mind. I wonder how many, really off track here, I really wonder how many of these elected officials have actually read their Constitution. Maybe we should take a couple of shows and just read the Constitution. Oh, I saw some eyes go rolling back behind their heads there. I did. I saw you through the radio. I saw you. Well, the Dems want you to hate all the cops and the military. Have you ever wondered why they want you to do that? Because they want war. They have declared war, not against the president, although he is the obvious target, but against you, the essentials, deplorables, figuring out their sins and their crimes. Now, I don't have his name in front of me because I lifted his article from that, but I have here The Civil War, and it was written by a gentleman who passed away in April. And let me see if I can get his name here. I know I had it. His name was Jack McKenzie. And I agree with what he has, except I think it goes much farther than what he has stated here. Civil war. How do civil wars happen, he says? Two or more sides disagree on who runs the country. And they can't settle the question through elections because they don't even agree that elections are how you decide who's in charge. Now think about that. That's the basic issue here, he says. Who decides who runs the country? When you hate each other, but accept the election results, you have a country. When you stop accepting election results, you have a countdown to a civil war. And I'm going to stop right there and I want to explain. The Democrats right now, who are proudly admitting that they are socialists, they are calling for violence against president supporters. They have called for impeachment, not formally, since before his inauguration. They did not accept the results of the Constitution. They do not like, of the election. They do not like the Constitution, and they do not like that Electoral College, which protects the Republic. The Mueller investigation, he goes on in his article here, is about removing President Trump. Removing President Trump from office and overturning the results of an election. We all know that. But it's not the first time they've done this. And he went through history here, so let's go back with him. The first time a Republican president was elected this century, they said he didn't really win. Do you remember who that was? The Supreme Court gave him the election, and that's the pattern here. What do sure odds of the Democrats rejecting the next Republican president really mean? It means they don't accept the results of an election, that they don't win. It means they don't believe that transfers of power in this country are determined by elections. And that, he says, is a civil war. He says there's no shooting, at least not unless you count the attempt to kill a bunch of Republicans at a charity baseball game practice. But the Democrats have rejected our system of government. They claim they're socialists. Remember that. This isn't dissent. It's not disagreement. You can hate the other party. You can think they're the worst thing that ever happened to the country. But then you work harder to win the next election. When you consistently reject the results of the elections, you don't win. What you want is a dictatorship. Your very own dictatorship. And that's what they want. And that's what they've created. This is outside his article here. I'm elaborating. That's why they've created this deep state. And it goes back even to the president that he's referring to with the hanging chads, if you remember that. It goes back that far and farther yet. This deep state, this shadow government that ignores your rights, ignores your Constitution, and has imposed at least 97 ways of taxing you. They don't like you. And they don't want to give up. Now back to his article. He says the only legitimate exercise of power in this country, according to the Democrats, is its own. Whenever Republicans exercise power, it's inherently illegitimate. The Democrats lost Congress. They lost the White House. So what did they do? They began trying to run the country through federal judges and bureaucrats. Every time that a federal judge issues an order saying that the President of the United States can't scratch his own back without his say-so, that's a civil war. Our system of government is based on the Constitution, but that's not the system that's running this country. The Democrat system is that any part of the government that it runs gets total and unlimited power over the country. If the Democrats are in the White House, then the president can do anything. And I mean anything, he says. He can have his own amnesty for illegal aliens. He can fine you for not having health insurance. His power is unlimited. He's a dictator. But when Republicans get into the White House, suddenly the president can't do anything. He isn't even allowed to undo the illegal alien amnesty, I love that he said alien, that his predecessor illegally invented. A Democrat in the White House has discretion to completely decide every aspect of immigration policy. A Republican doesn't even have the discretion to reverse him. And that's how the game is played. That's how our country is run. It's sad, but it's true. Although the left hasn't yet won that particular fight. When a Democrat is in the White House, states aren't even allowed to enforce immigration law. There's no sovereignty. But when a Republican is in the White House, states can create their own immigration laws. Under President Obama, a state wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom without asking permission. But under President Trump, Jerry Brown can go around saying that California is an independent republic and sign treaties with other countries. By the way, California is the one with the poo in the streets, just so you remember that. The Constitution has something to say about that. Whether it's a federal or state, executive, legislative, or judiciary, the left moves power around to run the country. If it controls an institution, then that institution is suddenly the supreme power in the land. This is what I call a moving dictatorship. Now think about this. Think about what he's saying and what has happened since I read this back in June. He wrote it in April. What has been going on? Think about it right now. With their screaming for impeachment, with their screaming for harassment of everyone who supports the president. Stop traffic, stop airplanes, do whatever you have to do. Think about it. Think about what they're screaming over this Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. That does sound like a name out of some novel, doesn't it, Brett Kavanaugh? They're worried he's going to stop the killing of babies. He's going to reverse Roe versus Wade. Well, he can't. They're not worried about Brett. They're worried about going back to the Constitution, because they've been outside that Constitution for a long time. And I hear the music once again, and I'm not quite done yet. 877-895-5410 is the number to call. That's 877-895-5410. I hope you realize what I'm trying to do. As awful as this sounds, that I'm reading, that I'm sharing, you are the essential ones. And only you can restore what's left of our republic. 877-895-5410, and we will be right back.